Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, and I'm kind of happy that in today's mail finally came a parts shipment that I ordered from Mystic Parts for a Penn reel. This one belongs to Dan. Dan had given me a Penn 310, the GTI series, and the problem is that this line guide got stuck over here, and that's a common flaw in a lot of these level wind reels. You'll see that it'll travel one way or another and it'll just stick. It won't move any further one way or another. And sometimes that is because the pawl, which is a forked cylinder inside of the line guide, has a broken or chipped tooth on it that can't catch the track of the worm gear, which is under here. That's not the case today. The case today is the other movable part. It's the transition part between the worm gear drive and the spool. Now, how do we know that? Well, we've removed the case, and when we remove that case, we turn the worm gear to make sure that the line guide progresses easily. And you can see that this is not hung up at all, and I'm simply just moving the piece from side to side. So what caused the failure then in this reel? Well, it's a piece called the idler gear, and the idler gear is a plastic piece. Again, it spans the two. If it was installed right now, you would see it installed like this between the spool and the and the worm drive gear. And this is the weak point of a lot of these drive reels. To the point where if something is going to break when you're snagged, well, you have a metal drive and you have a plastic gear. Well, plastic is weaker than metal. This is the one that's going to break, but that's designed as a fail-safe. And the reason for that is if it was a metal one and you got snagged, you can break all of the components in here pretty easily. You can break the tine on that pawl. You can scar the worm gear. You can probably even break this on the metal side. So it's kind of a sacrificial piece in some regards, but in many regards the idea here is that let this one break. And indeed this one did break. It might be hard to see. Let's see if we can line it up this way to show you a little bit better. In that tooth pattern, you're going to see that we have a series of nice even teeth, and then all of a sudden we have a flat spot. Well, every time that flat spot tries to engage the teeth here, it doesn't work. Now that's going to continue to drive because we have a drive on the spool, and eventually we'll get to the point where that flat spot hits the spool which drives it. Well, in that case it's going to stop because it'll go here to your flat spot, and this drive on the spool is going to try and push it. Well, it can't because there's no teeth to grab, and so your line guide will hang in whatever position that's in. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and grab the replacement part. We're going to install it, and we're going to show you how to make this work again. Now this is a Penn 310. Very popular reel. It kind of replaced the 2000 series. I'm sorry, the 209 series, the Penn Pier series. I like this one. I think that the line guide drive on it is a lot more robust than the line guide drive on the other, and it generally doesn't fail except for, well, what's a common failure in these types of reels. So I'm just going to take a moment here and shut the camera off for a second. I'll be right back. Okay, so what I was doing, there was a little copper plate that was kind of floating around inside of here while I was showing you that, and I needed to identify the location of it, and that's a back bushing for this spool so that it doesn't rub against the plastic case. So that's where that was, and that's why I shut this video off. This is relatively easy to do now. Now, one of the things we don't have with this reel is we don't have a click. Some of you will notice on some reels you have a click ring here, and pushing that down would make the noise on the ring. Instead, what we have is a little bit of a design difference. This is going to be your clicker, and when this click tongue engages with the back of the spool here, that's what's going to make the noise, as opposed to your traditional kind of a click ring assembly. All right, let's take this then. I have the new line guide. I'm going to take a little bit of grease. I'll probably regret not putting a glove on, but we're going to take the grease. We're going to grease up the shaft so that this spins freely on that. That's the way that goes. And then we can put some grease onto the metal. You don't need to. Teflon is self-lubricating, so you can kind of leave it off if you like, or grease it if you feel the need to. And then let's just line these up, put the cover back on. And it's really more about just kind of knowing how the reel works than anything else in terms of making this repair. It's not a difficult repair, but you do need to know that that's the case there. Also interesting of note is that the trim ring here just kind of covers over this part here, but if you were working on a 320 or a 330, this trim ring actually has an opening on the side of the case there, and that trim ring gives you access to go service that worm drive and put some lubrication on it. All right, we're going to just put the 3 side plate screws in. That's not quite lined up here. There we go. I think that's it now. So if you like the art of reel repair, if you're a hobbyist or a small shop, or you just want to learn more about fishing reels and how they come together, how they come apart, and how they get serviced, then I'd ask you to subscribe to my channel. My channel does a lot of fishing reel repairs. All kinds of reels are welcome and attended to. And in the videos, I show how to service just about every kind of reel that was manufactured. Tell you a little bit about the history if I know it. So I would ask you to go ahead and subscribe there. And looks like we're missing a case screw. We'll find one of those before we go much further. And now if you give that the turn, you'll notice, well, we don't have any breakage at all in that line guide area. So let's go ahead and put the handle back on, and I'll show you another feature of this reel that I find interesting. It only occurs on the 310, and I kind of like it. So I'm just going to grab my wrench for a moment. And while I'm doing this, if you have any questions regarding fishing reel repair, if you are maybe working on a reel and you're stumped, maybe something's broken in your reel and you really don't understand what the causes could be in your problem diagnosis, then leave one in the comments section. I do try to answer those. Generally speaking, I try to answer them early in the morning, so if you leave something around noon one day, you may not get an answer to the following day. But I do try to answer them, and to the best of my ability, I'll try to guide you with that. Sometimes I'll get stumped. I don't know everything about fishing reels, but I know a lot, and my experiences over the last 20 plus years have kind of shown me an awful lot of ways that fishing reels break, and maybe even some tricks in terms of how to get them repaired. If you leave that comment, I will try to show you how that comes together. All right, so we have one missing case screw, which we'll go get, and we'll just make this a final test here to make sure that that's working nicely, which it is. And so what's the other feature on this reel? Well, it's right here. This switch is a switch that's very similar in nature to a Penn Squitter or a Penn 390, 349, or 49 series. It is a free spool override that allows you to backpedal the reel and fight it by hand, as opposed to using the drag to do that work for you. So if you put it into the down position, you are now in free spool, and you can backpedal the reel. That's very interesting because that doesn't happen all of the time on many reels. As a matter of fact, here is the Penn 320. This one's a little bit more worn. But if you look on the 320, you do not have that override switch. That override switch, again, only comes on the 310. Now, there's other models that Penn has done the same with. For example, if you go to a Penn 10, which is the Penn 9 on steroids, if you will, the Penn 10 also has a switch like this on the side that's going to enable you to override it. So again, if you put it into engage mode, you're going to hear that clicker. That's going to give you the anti-reverse to your reel. And if you switch it to the down position, you're in free spool. And again, you can backpedal that reel. Remember what we were saying about this. If you snag, the weakness point on this reel is that idler gear that we just replaced. If you snag up, well, you're going to have a problem there. And you can get yourself out of that snag by releasing the free spool and coming backwards with that. Yeah, of course, you could always use the free spool lever if that was something you wanted to do. But regardless, that's kind of the way that that works. All right, well, that's the 310. In terms of completing your service for this reel, you would want to make sure that you go address the pawl. So let's go ahead and take that out. We've been saying all along, this could hang up because of a broken tooth on the pawl, so I will show you that. And here's your cap. It has the pawl in it. It's a cylinder. It's a round cylinder. These get dirty from time to time. And when you're servicing this, don't just check to make sure that your teeth on that pawl are uniform, that they're not cracked or chipped, but also make sure that the shoulders are clear. By shoulders, I mean this little joint here where that top of the cylinder meets the base of that fork. For folks that put a lot of grease onto worm gears as opposed to oil, and I use oil, grease will accumulate there, and there is a gap between those teeth and the channels of these worm gears, and every now and then all of a sudden you get buildup on these shoulders, and next thing you know you got to skip like I was describing before. So you would want to make sure that as part of your service you do what we just did here. Go ahead and remove the pawl. Put a drop of oil into the cap so that it moves freely inside that cap. Go reinstall it into the cap and then reinstall it into the carrier. So a lot of folks find that they've got a broken line guide and they kind of do massive surgery. That is, they remove a whole bunch of pieces and parts and fish it as a conventional reel. That's what happened with this one. Somebody decided that, well, the whole thing was not working properly, so they took out the line guide, they took out the pawl, they took out the idler gear, and they fish it as a conventional reel. You don't have to do that if you know the mechanics of a line guide and if parts are available. And we certainly showed you that the parts are available because that's where the shipment just came from. And when you go to set your pawl now, you just need to be careful in terms of tightening this down. You need to make sure that the fork is in the channel. So what we're doing here is I'm just gradually tightening it until I feel it fall in, and then you'll be able to complete the closure on that. So there you go. Penn 310, weakness, idler gear, how to correct, replace the idler gear, and how to service the balance of that, and show you a unique feature. So I hope you've enjoyed that. If you did, please like it. If you want to see more, again, please subscribe. And please, everybody, stay safe, stay well, and stay watching. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.